All right. Now we're actually recording this time.
Yeah, let's recreate that amazing first 15 minutes all over again.
Why don't you take it from the top, Brad?
Is it still episode 70, or do we want to call that lost episode 70?
No,
71.
It's still episode 70.
All right. Welcome to episode 70.2 of Auto Off Topic.
If it was never recorded, it doesn't count.
If a tree falls in the woods, everybody hears it.
And every once in a while, you got to double tap the record button.
Is it recording now?
It's definitely recording now.
Can you hear me now?
The counter's going.
Good. So, welcome to episode 70 of Auto Off Topic.
Yes.
That is the episode after 69.
Yes.
471.
That's right.
And we recorded it twice.
We did.
Do it twice, make it nice.
That's right. Anyway, weather's been okay, sort of.
I believe that the first time we didn't record it, you said the weather's been nice.
Yeah. I changed my mind.
For New England, it's been pretty okay.
It was weird. The end of last week, after the podcast, it got real warm. Then it got...
We've had some crazy fluctuations in temperature. We lost 60 degrees in one day.
It was 50
degrees in one day.
On Saturday morning, and then by Saturday night...
It was 19.
It was 19.
Yeah, and by the next morning, it was 8.
Yep.
So, from 60 degrees to 8 degrees in less than 24 hours.
Yep. Pretty crazy. Yeah, because the fog was insane.
It was really foggy before as it was getting warm because all the snow was getting warm from the air. And I was driving home on Friday night or Thursday night, and I could barely see a thing. It was awful.
Oh, you could barely see a thing because I had your truck, and I could barely see a thing because your headlights are like
these 2005 General Motors plastic lenses.
They're basically candles behind some parchment paper.
Yeah, kind of.
I could only tell the headlights are on when I went into a fog bank, and these two really anemic beams of light.
Did you turn on the fog lights?
No,
because the fog lights are pretty bright.
I actually couldn't figure out how to turn them on.
That's a giant switch, right where a fog light switch would be next to the headlight switch.
I couldn't find the button.
That's because the bulb in the switch is actually burnt out.
Okay.
So you can't see it at nighttime. You just have to know where it is.
All right. Well, that explains that.
I've been driving the truck for some time now, so I know where it is.
Yeah.
But it's right next to the headlight switch.
Actually,
Which actually you probably wouldn't know where the headlight switch is because you never have to turn them on because it's an 05 GM and they're just automatically on or off.
I kept missing the wipers because they're on the same stock as the turn signals.
Yes.
But I was looking for them with my right hand.
So you were high beaming people? No, that's the left stock too.
Yeah. Do you have a right stock?
Yeah.
What does it do?
High beams?
Maybe
I
shouldn't.
Wait, maybe I don't have a right stock.
No, you shouldn't because some trucks don't really column shift.
I have a column shift.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, so I have a right stock is the shifter.
Oh man, experts in cars.
Not trucks, so we're fine.
Okay.
Carry on, Andrew. So let's get into Project Car updates.
Yes.
When we recorded this episode, did not record it 10 minutes ago.
All right, just move past that.
We started with a different project, but since you already talked about driving my truck, we may as well start with that.
Yeah.
Why were you driving my truck on Friday, Andrew?
I was driving your truck because the brakes weren't working, and I was going to fix them, which I did.
You did?
But it wasn't the brakes.
Well, I mean, it was the brakes, but it wasn't the typical brake pads.
Them brakes?
Them to brakes.
It was the brake fluid was in horrible condition.
It was.
It was basically Coca-Cola.
No, it was not Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is actually lighter in color than this brake fluid was.
This was kind of greenish when you thinned it out. It was real weird. I don't know why.
Look like used motor oil in the picture you sent me.
Yeah.
It was pretty gross.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I had been hearing a weird noise in the back of the car, and I assumed that because my brake pedal was also going away at the same time, that my brake pads were just at the wear indicators, and it was time to do brakes.
Sure.
I'd never done brakes in the truck. I put a lot of miles in the truck. I towed a trailer with the truck. All right, makes sense. Probably brakes. We'll get a set of brakes. You got a set of decent, cheap brakes from your employer, and we decided we're going to put brakes in the truck. So you took the car for me, and I took your car because we traded skill sets for the day. Yeah. You did my brakes, and then you don't have a tire machine, so I was putting tires in your car, so we just kind of traded off.
Yep.
And you found out that my brakes were actually perfectly fine.
Well, aside from
except
the fluid.
for the brake fluid.
Yeah. Wear-wise, they were like 10 millimeter, and new pads are 12, so you're good.
And we did them anyway because we had them, and they're, might as well. So.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But the brake fluid made all the difference in the world.
Yes.
So, I mean, we live in a damp area,
Yeah.
and brake fluid is, was it
Hydroscopic.
hydroscopic? That's the word I'm looking for. Hydroscopic. So it absorbs moisture, and it breaks down as it absorbs moisture. Also, that truck for its entire life has been towing trailers.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing heat cycles, breaks like towing a trailer.
Yep.
So I'm sure that coupled with the damp New England air and Florida air, where the truck is from originally, kind of accelerated the wear of the brake fluid.
And brake fluid just gets progressively worse.
Yeah, you should do it every year or two.
Every 2 years at least, because then what happens as it heats up and it has water in it, well, as it heats up, it will boil, and then it will absorb water, and then more and more water. It boils easier and easier, and it just gets worse and worse and worse.
And then you have basically air bubbles in a closed system.
You're almost pushing water and not hydraulic fluid.
So it don't work.
Nope.
But anyway, so the change in the brakes wasn't a huge difference with the pads, but the brake fluid, the truck stops like it's a whole nother vehicle.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
Otherwise, the truck was well cared for before you got it. So
Yeah, no. We did discover that it had airbags in the back, which I'm almost embarrassed I didn't know.
yeah, extra load airbag.
But I've never had it on a lift with the suspension hanging down before.
Yeah.
I did notice that it had fittings on the rear, and just in my head, I just assumed that it had air shocks for like extra loads, but it actually has a set of airbags in between the axle and the frame of the truck. So it did have a fifth wheel trailer on it at one point. Obviously, that's probably why it had the airbags to level it up when it was loaded with the trailer.
Yep.
So it was owned by a horse person before I got it.
Ah. So you were borrowing my car, and we put the winter tires on it. Same Contis we put on the Crosstrek.
Yep.
Because my friend had them. He gave them to me with the car. They're like maybe 1-2 seasons on them.
Yeah, they're in real good shape.
Yeah, he was swapping them out. And then
you had like really old Blizzaks on there. And they
like
were
05.
They were kind of useless.
Yeah, they're definitely dried out and crappy. I kept having to put air in them.
And like I said, Blizzaks, just when they get past a certain wear, they just don't do anything anymore.
No.
So
these are like way softer, but maybe I don't notice it on the Crosstrek because Crosstrek suspension's kind of soft.
Also, the Crosstrek probably has a smaller sidewall.
No.
No?
I think the aspect ratio is the same. It's got 17s, but I think it has a pretty big sidewall.
Okay. Well, I noticed that when I drove it home after doing the tire change, that it felt very wallowy with these tires on it. There's a noticeable difference in time from when you turn the steering wheel, on the highway especially, to when you feel the car move. You like feel the wheel turn in the tread blocks of the tires, and then the car changes lanes.
You guys put 32 PSI in them, so then I bumped them to 34, and it felt better.
Okay.
So
I figured 32 was a good baseline. That's fair.
Yeah.
I put them.
It's better than the other ones that
we did all valve stems too, because we weren't sure if your tires were leaking or your valve stems were leaking.
Exactly.
And we cleaned the rim of the wheels just to make sure there was no gunk that was leaking out of the rim of the wheels. Have they been leaking at all? They've been good?
Those haven't leaked. The old ones leaked.
So it could have been the tire or the valve stem or just a rim leak. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Every 2 days I had to put air in 2 of them. They would go down to like 25.
You had been complaining about a wobble in the front end at like 60?
Yeah, apparently the wheel is not round.
The wheel was far from round when I put it on the balancer. Far from round. So I put that on the right rear or left rear. One of the rears.
Still vibrates at 60.
Is it as bad?
It almost feels worse, but you just go past it and it's fine.
That's strange.
I don't really care because they're winter wheels.
The other 3 wheels were perfectly straight, and I kept them in regular locations.
If you're below it, it's fine. If
I just figured
above
that
it,
I
it's
figured
fine.
that the bent wheel on the back of the car, we'd probably feel it less, but maybe not.
It kind of vibrates some of the panels, but I don't.
Yeah, you can move it if you have to.
It's whatever. It's winter wheels.
Buy a new wheel.
Yeah,
I did my part.
I actually did replace one of the wheels. I had an extra one because one had paint peeling off of it.
So we could probably put the paint peely one back on, and it would probably not vibrate anymore.
Yeah, just looked really gross. But whatever, doesn't matter. It works.
It does work, and more importantly, when you drove it today in the snow, you were fine. Actually, you didn't drive it today in the snow because
I worked from home.
You guys worked from home today because it's snowing a little bit out.
Yeah, I don't want to waste my time commuting.
Wah. Actually, there was nobody on the road today. It was weird.
Because people don't waste their time commuting anymore.
Apparently not.
It's like not worth it to like. I know I can drive anywhere in the snow. Like I'm not going to get stuck. But the problem is, a bunch of other people get out there
and they just get stuck.
And they just get stuck, and then I get stuck, and it's just irritating and a waste of time.
Well, I drive by your house actually twice a day on my commute to work.
Yeah.
And normally I'm stuck in traffic in front of your house, and it's annoying, and I curse you every time it happens. Because obviously it's your fault.
Oh, yeah.
But today, I breezed right past it without an issue. So I was like, oh, there's nobody on the road. And it's been a great commuting week because Monday was a holiday, and yesterday was normal, and today there's nobody on the road. So,
Actually, yesterday's commute wasn't great in the morning for me. Whatever.
Well,
it's very localized talk.
Well, yeah, yesterday, well, it's kind of a cool thing to talk about, actually.
What?
The zipper truck.
What happened?
It broke. That's why there was so much traffic yesterday.
What, in the South Shore?
The one that does the
HOV lane?
HOV lanes.
Oh, I didn't hear it broke.
Yeah, it broke for most of the morning.
Oh, really?
So around here, because we live near Boston, it's an old town, and it's not designed for commuting for cars.
No.
So we have an HOV lane, or a high occupancy vehicle lane, that changes for the AM and PM commute, and actually is a truck that is like 2.5 lanes wide that drives over the Jersey barriers to shift the Jersey barriers
like
over over an entire lane, called a zipper truck.
Yeah.
But that truck broke yesterday, and it was broken down into like 9:15.
Oh, really?
So it just bottlenecked traffic everywhere on all the major highways around here.
Oh, I didn't.
Because not only was the HOV lane not open, but the zipper truck was
Stuck.
So there were like 3 lanes closed, which just bottlenecked everything.
No.
Even if you don't drive on the highway that has the zipper lane, it just screwed up everything around here. It was kind of interesting to see. I don't know what was broken on it. I assume it's a diesel truck. I assume it's diesel powered, but I don't even know.
It's on like stanchions, though. Like, it's really tall.
Yeah, because it has to like go over the whole entire lane.
Yeah.
You could drive a car underneath it without an issue.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
It's a weird vehicle. It's like a giant spider with 4 legs.
Yeah.
Anyway, other project car updates. What else have we done, Andrew?
I had a down date with the Subaru, maybe, because the power steering is like shuddering, and there was like some power steering fluid in the ground. But I don't know if that was from the cold. It just kind of like burped up some fluid or something. I don't know. I'll look into it.
We'll look into that.
It's going to be warm this weekend. So
You've had an interesting history lately with power steering pumps.
Yes.
So between the Montero and this thing. Yeah.
But what did we do? Because it was sort of warm last weekend, but we didn't have that.
Well, when it was 60 degrees on Friday, we decided we wanted to work on cars on Saturday.
Yep.
Not realizing it was going to drop, so quickly during the 20 degrees an hour, pretty much for most of the day.
Yeah.
So we decided it was time to work on the Galant engine. My Galant engine, not Andrew's Galant engine. So we had the replacement motor that we got. We got a replacement short block from, actually, a friend of the show, Jeremy, who sold me the car, actually bought me the short block because he felt bad. And he's a genuinely nice guy. I still feel bad that he
also a former guest.
Yes, I still feel bad that he bought the block for me, but at this point, I'll take it. So, we had previously taken it out of storage, put it on the engine stand, and inspected it. We didn't do anything beyond a quick visual inspection. We put it on the engine stand, rolled it over, pulled the oil pan off, saw that it was missing the number 4 rod bearing. Weren't quite sure why, but it was. Didn't know if somebody took it out to inspect it or measure it or what, but it was completely missing. So we knew we had to get bearings no matter what. Learned a new skill this weekend. I have never done a plastic gauge before. So those who are not familiar with plastic gauge, it's
Plastidip for the inside of your engine.
Yeah, kind of. It's literally, the package looks like a ruler, and it has these little indicators on it of how wide the plastic gauge should be.
All right. So here's how. All right.
You have a better explanation for it?
So
take it away.
First of all, you
Internet mechanic
confused the parts people at the store.
They had no idea what I was talking about.
They probably thought you were looking for Plastidip and were calling it the wrong name.
No idea. I had to give them a part number in order to find something that they had in stock on their shelf.
So what this is inside an engine, there is between your connecting rod bearings, your crank journal bearings, and where they sit, where it spins. Obviously, obviously it can't be super tight or else it wouldn't spin.
Right. It needs to be a certain clearance.
There's what's called an oil gap. Mm-hmm. And if the oil gap is too small, it will cause too much friction. If the oil gap is too big, it will rod knock because it will rattle around.
Yeah, move around.
Basically, it has to be just the right gap so that the oil pressure fills it up.
Which is about 2/1000ths.
Yes. And the way you determine that is by using this plastic gauge. It's this very soft, thin piece of plastic. It looks like string almost, or
Yeah, it looks like a really thin plastic rod.
Yep. And it's very soft. And you cut a little piece, and you put it onto the crank journal or the connecting rod journal area, and then you bolt them back up after you've taken them apart.
Yeah, you bolt the back of the connecting rod back to it.
Yep. And it
with the bearings in it.
Yep. And it will squish down, and then you take the outside of the package, and it gives you, depending on how much it squishes out, tells you how tight the oil gap is.
Right, because you measure the width of the flattened plastic rod.
Yes.
And that will show you how big the gap is.
Yes.
So it flattened out, and then you put the little indicator across it, and it says 0.002.
Otherwise, the hard way to do this, you have to use micrometers and all specialized machinist measuring stuff.
Right, and for the $3 that plastic gauge costs,
yes,
I'm not going to buy a digital micrometer to figure it all out.
So everything looked good and even.
And every one was 0.002.
Yep.
So that's good.
They didn't have a ton of wear on them. They had normal wear.
Mm-hmm.
So that engine, we determined, was completely stock. It's 100%. Never been bored out. The cylinder walls looked great. And
almost brand new great.
It's already at the machine shop, right?
Not only is it at the machine shop, it's already done.
Cool.
So it's already been ball honed and hot tanked and cleaned, and it's ready to get picked up and painted and put back together again.
Sweet.
So I just need to pick up a set of standard size crank bearings.
Yep.
Rod bearings. And
piston rings.
Piston rings.
Nice.
So, I mean, it's fairly inexpensive, actually. I think the set of rod bearings was like $38.
It's just about one of the least expensive ways to rebuild an engine.
Well, yeah, and it only works if the motor's in good shape.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we did notice was that the tops of the pistons had marks on them, and we kind of determined that at some point, probably the reason the motor was taken out of the car was that a timing belt had broken, and the pistons crashed into the valves.
But it already had a balance shaft delete.
That's true.
So, whatever. Doesn't matter.
We'll put it together right, because all the measurements worked, and everything's going to be fine.
Oil pump felt good. We'll clean it.
Yep.
Put it back together.
Oh, I had the machine shop also clean the oil pan in the tank as well.
Cool.
So it's all fresh and new, too. So now we got to take the head off of the old motor.
Yep.
And send that to the same machine shop to clean out any residue and leftover from the bearing failure in that motor.
Yes.
So there's no metal shavings.
And they'll check it for squareness.
Yeah, they'll make sure it's flat. And if we got to shave it, we'll shave it and hope for the best. So the plan is to pretty much build the car back to stock without any major modifications.
Nope.
I mean, for now, I'm going to run that ridiculously oversized exhaust until I get a proper exhaust for it. So that'll be the only modification.
And you've already got the gasket set. So
full gasket set.
Once the engine parts are cleaned and you have all the gaskets.
I do have a friend that offered me up a downpipe I have to take him up on, too.
Okay.
Because the downpipe that came with the car was grossly oversized.
Yeah.
And remember, it fouled with the cross member in the front.
Yeah.
And most of the time, smashed in the ground. So it's like a 4-inch downpipe on the car. It's absolutely absurd. So we got to put a normal size downpipe on it.
We can get, if somebody has a used first-gen Eclipse or Talon exhaust, and we can just extend it
a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, the exhaust isn't terrible big. I'd like to put a more normal exhaust on it eventually, but as long as we get a normal size downpipe, I'll be okay, I think. Because the couple days I drove the car before it blew up, it wasn't super obnoxiously loud. So it was a reasonable level of obnoxiously loud.
Was it lowered?
The car?
Yeah.
It may be. It's got unknown springs in it, though. I don't know what they are. But they're I think they are lowered.
I think it needed a slave cylinder, too.
It drove just fine.
No, remember we tried to bleed it, and it blew out? There was a problem with the clutch at first?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah. You did need a slave cylinder. Probably grab a used one. They're super easy to change, even if it works for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
They're right in the front of the transmission. Crazy easy to change. So just grab a used one from someone.
I may have one then already.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
And then there was I have the part of the drive shaft that needs to be rebuilt. I have that. I gave it to you.
The center bearing?
No, the front yoke.
Oh, yeah. That's right, too. It's been so long, I forget
And
what that
then
means.
you do need 2 center bearings, which aren't super expensive either.
Yeah, it was like $80 each.
And you can rebuild that drive shaft like pretty quickly.
So if all goes according to plan, this car should be on the road in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So that's a fingers crossed moment. And then start driving it. And life is good. This is the year, Andrew. I said it not as a New Year's resolution, just I said it last year that 2018 throughout spring and fall, and spring and summer into fall, everything I own is going to be back on the road.
I have to see if you've got an extra cooling fan. I need it.
I may. We'll have to go through the giant stack of Gallant parts I have lying around.
So that's covers project car updates.
Yes,
a lot of good ones. Any scale project car updates?
No, not really.
No.
I've been working on some stuff, but nothing worth talking about. I'm struggling with some issues again with painting laying down. Yeah, which is always my Achilles heel when it comes to model car building, the painting of a body. We do have to talk about the Volkswagen rally car.
Oh, yeah.
Because that will be, quote-unquote, debuted this weekend.
Yes, they're running a test and tune at Canaan.
Yeah, so they're going to do a good shakedown of the car.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's not a stage rally by any means, but at least it's driving the car more than up and down the driveway.
We've been getting text pictures in our group chat of their suits and helmets.
Which they don't need for the helmets, but they don't need the fire suits for the rally sprint, for the rally cross test and tune. But they will need them for the rally sprint,
which is the 18th,
which is February 18th at Team O'Neill. Which we will be at as part of the, as we're calling it, and we don't care what they say, the Auto Off Topic Rally Team.
Sure.
We are the crew of the Auto Off Topic Rally Team. That's not what they call it. He calls the car Spaghetti, because it's a red Volkswagen GTI, and SPA GTI is Spaghetti. So that's really something I think that is where it came from.
Yeah.
Or just or somebody called it Spaghetti, and it just kind of fit. So.
Make a good vanity plate. It's easy to get vanity plates in New Hampshire.
Yep, yeah, I like that a lot. So anyway, but yes, as whenever we talk about it on the show, it'll be called the Auto Off Topic Rally Team Volkswagen, even though we have no horse in the race other than we're helping about working on the car.
The belts are in it, I heard.
We have no financial backing, no financial backing on the Auto Off Topic Rally Team.
Nope, just some stickers and hard labor.
Yes. And by belts, of course, you mean seat belts,
yes.
Not drive belts. It still does need drive belts, but it has seat belts, which it also needs because the other ones were outdated.
Yeah. And then we got to do some wiring because the wiring is a mess.
It is a horror show.
It gives me anxiety.
Yes. Yeah, there's no order to it whatsoever.
Just bolts every positive wire for every accessory to the positive terminal of the battery.
Yeah, so there's like 100 wires.
And then a bunch of random inline fuses.
It's just a fire waiting to happen. It's terrible. It's really, really terrible.
I hate bullet fuses so much.
Well, you never buy a 70s car then, Andrew.
I know, but you must just have to carry them around with you, right? Because they're hard to find.
Every car I have has a package in a glove box of the universal bullet fuse replacements.
It's so much easier to get the other style fuses that have been used for the last 20 years.
Yeah, but it's difficult to change the whole car over to those.
Yeah, I know. But you have 4 circuits in your Colt?
More than that.
6?
No, there's at least 14 fuses, 12 fuses.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 12 fuses. Because you have headlights, high beams, horn, and then marker lights and tail lights are on the same circuit.
Okay.
Backup lights are a separate circuit. Radio, blower motor, interior light.
Okay.
That's it. And actually, the dash lights are on the same circuit as the running lights and tail lights. But the brake lights have a separate circuit, so just the brake lights. And the backup lights. Did I say backup lights already?
I think so.
I may have. Yeah, that's about it. But yes, maybe there's less fuses than I thought there were. There aren't very many circuits. No, nope. Never mind. I added electronic. Did not have electronic ignition. I added electronic ignition.
Mm-hmm.
So that is not a circuit.
Mm-hmm.
So never mind.
Nope.
Yeah, that's it. So 8. But nonetheless, I do carry fuses because I have had incidences. I had that one incident where I kept blowing the running lights and taillights at nighttime.
Yep.
And then I realized there's a crack in the taillight. So the right side taillight was getting wet inside in the rain, and that was popping the fuse.
Oh, okay.
So once I fixed that, I didn't pop fuses anymore.
Good.
So anyway, that's not even a project car update. We're even worried about that. Car's been in storage for 3 months. So anyway, so good luck to Liz and Jordan this weekend in their debut of their car. I hope it goes well. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to be there. I don't think we're going to be there for that because they don't need a mechanic crew at the Rallycross. And if they do, they just load it in the trailer and bring it home. So hopefully that doesn't happen and they get a good amount of runs in. And or if God forbid they do break, they can figure out how to fix it themselves. So good luck to them on that. Anyway, anything else going on, Andrew?
Not too much on our own stuff.
Right.
Should we discuss our topic this week?
Yeah. I don't think we have a huge thing about it, but
No.
I have a few things to say, and
No, but it's pretty interesting.
and it's a sad topic.
Yeah. This week, the world lost Dan Gurney, the racing driver / team owner / car builder, kind of a legend.
Kind of legend.
Yeah.
I mean, the man's an absolute legend.
Yeah. A legend in American racing.
The man is such a legend in American racing. There's an entire room at the Peterson Museum dedicated to him.
Yes, that's the thing. So that was pretty cool that we did get to see the Dan Gurney exhibit at the Peterson.
Yeah.
We were out there for Radwood. And one of the things that made that significant out there is because he lived most of his life in Southern California, aside from being born in Long Island.
Yep.
His family moved to Southern California. And being immersed in that hot rod culture is what got him into racing. So we're talking late 50s, early 60s,
Okay.
when you could, like, it was totally different back then. Like, you and I could just go to an SCCA race, and then maybe we might get a chance.
I'd say early 50s. He started getting into it.
You might get a chance to actually drive in a race or something. Like, somebody might just get sick or something. You can jump in, or you can, talk your way into a car. Maybe that's faster than the one you own, or somehow the cars were, like, you were able to get started in racing, like, literally from nothing.
Correct.
And then you might have a chance to go pro, which it can happen today, but it's incredibly rare and difficult. Like, you have to start karting usually when you're a kid to even have a chance.
Especially to get into the top tier racing like Formula One.
Yeah.
Or
even
NASCAR for that
Yeah,
matter.
there are people I follow on Instagram who are like semi-pro drivers that are constantly looking for rides.
Yeah, they never have
It's a hard thing, and it's so competitive.
Well, I'd say that even in the 50s and 60s when Gurney was getting his start,
Yeah,
he was a rare, person. It wasn't like everybody just had people throwing cars at them to drive all the time.
no,
Dan Gurney was an amazing wheelman, and people knew that.
yeah, and then some of it, of course, is that it is that right time, right place with the skill set to capitalize on it.
100%.
So, and then I think my favorite, I'll just read the quote I have, is like my favorite thing from, actually, we lost Brock Yates in 2016.
Yeah, 2016, recently.
Yep. Because Dan Gurney drove with Brock Yates for the very first Cannonball before it was officially the Cannonball.
Right. Dan Gurney was an integral part of the Cannonball becoming what it became.
Yes. They set the original C2C record. And so Brock Yates said...
It was a Ferrari, right?
Yep. So Brock Yates said this about him in the Cannonball book, which is a really great book to read.
If you get a chance to read it, yeah.
He said, this is Brock Yates. I had witnessed a virtuoso playing with a fine instrument, and it came to me that that this had to be the peak of excellence that every driver must aspire to. Surely all men cannot be Gurneys, nor all cars Ferraris, but such lofty goals still remain, as opposed to the current egalitarianism that presumes all drivers are helpless dolts who must be packaged in mediocre crash-proof capsules lest they hurt themselves. The same mentality would determine that because a Van Kilburn appears only in every few million piano students, all piano lessons must be restricted to the teaching of chopsticks. So Brock Yates is very famously like a libertarian, small government type guy.
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons why he did the cannonball was to protest. This was even before the mandated 55 speed limit, but
protesting the general speed limits in general, speed limits in general.
Yes, and the fact that roads were getting better in the 70s. They still weren't great,
and cars were getting better.
Tires
were certainly getting better.
Yep. And that just generally the speed limit should be higher. People should. But again, this is like a totally different topic. But cars are constantly getting safer, and now we're in the cups of self-driving cars because people can't handle driving a car themselves.
As we learned last week, they can't handle putting gas in them.
Putting gas in a car, so it's just, I don't know. As I get older, I just kind of more of like Darwin Awards type stuff. Just let it sort itself out.
Exactly. As we were talking about that with the Tide Pod challenges in the news today.
Yes.
Just let these kids do stupid stuff, and life goes on.
Yeah. We were promised flying cars, and now we have to tell people not to eat laundry detergent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I told you, I literally got an email from my daughter's school, saying, hey, be careful, kids are doing this, and there's rumors that kids in the school are doing it, so watch your kids, lock up your Tide Pods, because they're eating everything up in here. I don't understand it at all, but that's way off topic. My mind is so blown by this whole factor of eating laundry detergent. I was talking to Naomi earlier today, and she said that when she was growing up, eating soap was a punishment.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, oh yeah, it was. So why is it now kids are voluntarily eating soap? Maybe because it's not being punished harshly enough by eating soap.
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, we've all seen A Christmas Story. The kid makes the kid eat soap when he swears. And that was a horrible, horrible thing. And now kids are like, all right, internet, here's me eating soap. But anyway, going back to Dan Gurney, because it's a way cooler topic than Tide Pods.
Yeah, speaking of, being your own person and, I don't know, just...
That's kind of a weak transition, Andrew. But what Dan Gurney did bring is a lot of modern safety stuff. Dan Gurney really was a pioneer in.
Yeah.
Full-face helmets in racing, I know he was part of.
Oh, okay.
I forget what race it was in, and I should have... I've been reading a lot about Dan Gurney in the past week since the news broke, just because, I've always been familiar with him and the Gurney flap and the AAR and, his involvement with different, race teams and race cars over the years. But he wasn't the first to wear a full-face helmet, but he's one of the first to, campaign for the full-face helmet. And he, at one point, took a rock in his face.
Yeah.
And he made a leather guard to go over his lower part of his face.
Okay.
And he was one of the first to do that, I guess. So, that's, you can't thank Dan Gurney for the full-face helmet. He certainly championed it and made it a more mainstream thing. He had just a lot of influence in American motorsports, and obviously the probably most famous Gurney thing is the Gurney flap.
Yeah.
Right? And that's one of the things they have on display at the Peterson Museum, where they talk about, they actually have a wing off of his race car, which the race car was in the vault we saw it with the wing missing?
Yeah, so in the vault, one of the Gurney Eagle cars was sitting there without the wing on it.
Yeah,
and
that's weird.
I was like, maybe that's because it's a big wing and people were maybe bumping into it by accident. So they took it off just to protect it. And then we're upstairs in the exhibit, and the exhibit had a display on the Gurney flap, and I was like, that makes sense why that is not
they had
there.
The actual wing from the Gurney Eagle hanging on like a board in the middle of the room of the Gurney display where all the Gurney race cars were. So, I mean, the Gurney flap, for those that don't know, it's the little lip on the end of a spoiler, the end of a wing on a race car, just to spoil the air a little bit more.
Yep. So that was in 1960. He had a crash at the Dutch Grand Prix, a brake system failure.
Okay.
That was his most serious accident. Broke his arm, and he killed a spectator.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, but that was like, if you've ever seen the movie Grand Prix, I mean, that was the way it was. Like, like you it's amazing that he lived to be 86 years old when he was racing during what is arguably one of the most dangerous times in Formula One, that he survived it. Because a lot of people did not survive
would have passed. Yeah, would have died from that.
What else was there? There was actually in that movie. So there's a downpour when they're at Spa.
Okay.
And so that was a real race.
A lot of footage from that movie was taken during real races, was it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that was pretty cool. I didn't know that.
What does that have to do with Gurney? Is it just...
It was... I lost my place here. One of his things, so when he was doing his Anglo-American racers, and they're running the Westlake cars that were sort of engineered by them, they had a V12, but it wasn't ready in 66.
Okay.
So they used an outdated four-cylinder. It was a Coventry Climax engine. And their first appearance was in the second race of the year in Belgium. And just a little note is that this was the race of the sudden torrential downpour captured in the feature film Grand Prix.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, and apparently he finished 7th in that race. But it was pretty neat because in, where was it? He won, it was the first time he had won, it was the first time anybody had won a Formula One race in an American car with an American driver.
Okay.
Do you remember when that was?
I don't.
It was, so it was June 18th, 1967.
So it was right after that
No.
season they're talking about. Well, 66.
Yeah, it was a year.
The next season.
So it was the Belgian Grand Prix, so Spa-Francorchamps.
Francorchamps.
Francorchamps. That was, I think, one of the only times that car actually won, so that was pretty interesting. But this was the time in history when drivers drove all sorts of different things.
So wait, were we talking about were you just talking about Le Mans in 67?
It was weeks, so the first race in Formula One for his car was a few weeks after he won
Le Mans
with AJ Foyt.
Okay.
In the GT40.
But you also know what was significant about his Le Mans win?
No.
Not related to the motorsports part of it at all. Actually, not related to the racing part of it at all. He was the first winning driver to spray champagne all over the stage.
Yeah, I read that too. I didn't. Yeah. I guess that's
one of the things that I had read the other day when I was reading about it. And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting," because that's something that just happens now. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
And Dan Gurney was the first to do it. He was just he was so excited to win the race, and he got the big bottle of champagne, and he was like, "I'm just going to shake this up and spray it all over everybody."
Yeah, that's pretty ubiquitous with like everything now.
Yeah, any winning of any big event that gets handed a bottle of champagne, it sprays all over there. But that was a Dan Gurney thing as well. That was something he did, which is a weird thing to attribute to one person. I'd never even thought about where that tradition had started from until I started reading about it. Because I've read books about Gurney in the past, and obviously I've been to the Gurney exhibit at the Peterson, and I've never heard mention of that until this week. So that's kind of a cool thing to be having your history. Like, you started something that people even outside of motorsports do. Yeah. So even what's interesting, so he is one of only 3 drivers to win races in Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, Can-Am, and Trans Am. Trans Am, yeah. Which the Trans Am, they sold the Barracuda with the AAR logo on the quarter panel. Kind of like Camaro sold a Z28 with the D-stroked 350 to match the, was it 305 or 310 cubic inch rule, whatever it was?
Yeah.
Well, he built the Barracuda, Challenger, Barracuda, the AAR Cuda, which was a 340 car that was D-stroked with 304. And that fit the rules of the SCCA. And then it's selling that the option package at the Dodge dealer, well, the Plymouth dealer, was the AAR Cuda, and it had like a tape stripe package as well that went down the quarter panel and ended in his AAR All-American Racers logo on the quarter panel, which is really cool as well. So the other 2 drivers to only ever do that were Mario Andretti and Juan Pablo Montoya. I didn't know Juan Pablo Montoya had done Trans Am.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Interestingly, I thought Mark Donohue was one of those people, but he never won Formula One.
Oh, so he didn't do Formula One? Did he do IndyCar?
Yes, he did do Formula One. He podiumed, but he never won a Formula One race. And he had done NASCAR, and he had done...
I know he Can-Am and NASCAR. I didn't know if he'd done any open wheel stuff.
Yes, he won the Indy 500, 72.
Then that's certainly an important one,
Yep.
which apparently somehow I forgot about. I've also read his book and didn't realize that. I probably read about it and just kind of forgot.
Well, they all kind of, to be fair, some of these guys kind of blend together.
Well,
Because
it's before our time.
Exactly. It's before our time, and then this was also the time when a driver would drive anything.
Mm-hmm.
You just put a guy who's fast in this car, just throw him in that car.
And there wasn't a NASCAR star. There was a racing star.
Yeah.
The cars were probably a lot more similar back then, too.
Maybe.
Well, there was not... Most cars were mechanical grip. There weren't a lot of downforce stuff in the 50s and 60s, and even into the early 70s, it really started to really catch on. Again, attributing some of that to Dan Gurney with the Grady Flap.
Mm-hmm.
So, he just very, very interesting career of racing, and I don't know, there was never... Was anything bad was ever said about the man, really? It was just a all-around good guy race car driver.
No, car and driver tried to...
Oh, yeah. They
jokingly tried to get him to run for president.
Yeah, that was in, what, 64?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd bring it up over the years. It's always a ubiquitous little sticker. You see it.
Oh, yeah, if I had a car built in 64 or 65, I would definitely have a Dan Gurney for president sticker on the back of it. 100%.
And then, I mean, it's pretty neat. Like, he raced in NASCAR.
Actually, I should get my dad to put a Dan Gurney for president sticker on the back of his TR3.
Yeah.
Because that'll be about 61, so it's close enough.
And then he raced he didn't race them, but his team raced the Toyota GTP cars, which were like
88, 89-ish, 90,
Yeah.
91, that era.
which were ridiculously fast.
Yeah, they raced those. What was that model car? 88C or something like that? Because it ran in the same series like the R390, Nissan.
Eagle Mark III.
Okay, I thought there was a Toyota name for it as well, though.
No. Eagle Mark III is a sports prototype built by All American Racers in 1991 to IMSA GTP specifications. Turbocharged inline 4-cylinder.
Yeah, like 800 horsepower, though.
Yeah, like huge turbos. Like that stuff was crazy back then. I think.
Have you ever heard one of those cars run?
No.
See, I saw the Nissan, which I want to say was like an R.
It's the IMSA Camel GT.
The IMSA Nissan, I think it was the R3 something. The R390 is a newer one. There was an IMSA car from the same era as the Toyota that Dan Gurney's AAR team built.
Yeah.
Which I had the pleasure of seeing run around Road Atlanta at the Midi one year. And it was just an absurd turbo noise.
I feel like
all you heard was turbo noise.
I feel like it has the. I have to check it now.
What's that?
I think it has the Lime Rock Park lap record.
The Toyota does?
Yeah. Yes, it does. So here, this is great because the car is in Forza, and I was thinking about buying it because I have enough credits in Forza 7.
Oh.
And it made me think about it. But so Lime Rock Park is a 1.5 mile track.
In Connecticut.
Local to us, yeah. 7 turns.
Local-ish.
But it's basically a kind of almost like a modified tri-oval. Roughly.
Okay.
The race lap record. So a fast car, like a fast street car, is like low 1 minute.
Yeah, like 104, 103.
To be like real quick, you're under a minute.
Most street cars are not under a minute.
No, I think IMSA cars are mid to high 50s. The race lap record for the Eagle Mark III Toyota in 1993, 43.112 seconds.
43?
Yeah.
Wow.
1.5 miles, 43 seconds.
And that's not a 1.5 mile straight. That's 1.5 mile road course elevation change. Is that that's probably without the chicane, right?
I believe they ran
Straight up back hill.
They ran without the chicane at that time.
Yeah. That car must have gotten airborne.
I think
too.
this car was actually, yes, because these cars, like the Audis,
Nissan was the NPT 90. That's the car I got to see go.
they were getting air, and that's why they added the chicane, because these cars were so fast.
Yeah, well, I can imagine, because cars at over a minute lap times get light going over that hill. Like, you'll see a street car go over that hill running a 105, 106 lap time, and he crests that hill, and you'll hear the car as it goes over the hill.
It was Memorial Day weekend, 1993.
Memorial Day weekend?
Yep.
That's cool. Which is still a racing weekend there.
Yeah.
Wait, the Historics is Labor Day, right?
That's Labor Day.
Okay.
But they do race on Memorial Day.
Yeah, I'd love to see that car there at the Historics one year.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. Even if it didn't race, just if it ran exhibition laps at 0.8 instead of 0.10, it would be amazing to see.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, we've seen Sterling Moss lap there in a Silver Arrow, which was a highlight of my, sports car watching career. I don't have a racing career, so
no.
My spectator career. I'd love to see that Toyota run that track, too. But, yeah, so rest in peace, Dan Gurney. We'll have to put some pictures and stuff up of some of the things we talked about onto the...
Oh, I've got some pictures from the Peterson.
Oh, I definitely have pictures from there, too.
And I definitely took a picture of the Mark III, because it's like one of my favorite cars.
And I took a bunch of pictures of the Cuda, because it's one of my favorite cars of all time.
But, yeah, I mean, that stuff's just a couple... I mean, I like Brock Yates, my favorite automotive journalist.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard Dan Gurney died, I just thought of that quote, because that was just Cannonball, such a good book.
Yep. Yeah, the number 42 Cuda was the AAR campaign team, which actually had a Hot Wheels sponsorship, which is neat as well. But anyway, I think that's an episode for today.
Yeah.
I think so.
Where can they find you, Brad?
Find me on Instagram at TSISS350.
Mm-hmm.
And you?
You can find me on Instagram at Rates and Anger. You can follow the podcast Auto Off Topic on Instagram, Auto Off Topic Podcast on Facebook. Please, if you choose to like us on Facebook, just see notifications first so that you actually see our stuff.
Valid point.
We haven't done a listener question episode in a while, but when we do, you'll be able to see that post. It won't get buried.
Yep.
And you can ask us questions, and we'll answer them on the air. If you leave a review, send us a message. I'll get you some stickers. I sent out some earlier this week, the people I owed stickers to. Somebody messaged me earlier today. I got some stickers for them. This listener, I'm blanking on his name. I think it was Josh. Sorry, Josh, if it's that.
And if it's not Josh, you don't know who we're saying sorry to, so screw off.
He's got a Starion with a 1UZ. What's the Toyota V8?
1UZ, I think it's right, 1UZ FE or something like that.
Yeah. So he wanted some stickers put on it, so mailing those out
color's
tomorrow.
That car?
It's red.
Oh. Scott? Is he in Vegas?
No.
Huh. Okay, never mind. There's a couple of those cars out there.
Yeah, I would assume. So, if you do, leave us a review. Let us know. Send us a picture of it, whatever. I'll send you some stickers.
Eventually.
No, I'm doing it quicker now. We're trying.
Either way, they're free, so no complaints.
No. The goal is we really need some iTunes reviews. Would really help us out.
Yeah, we don't actually have any iTunes reviews, do we? Maybe one or two?
James Walton. So,
excellent.
Thanks, James.
Yeah. Personal shout out. You get more stickers.
Yeah. So anyway, please like us on Facebook. Follow us.
Please like us. We need to be liked.
Subscribe to us on iTunes, whatever podcast app you use. And as always, keep your cars analog.
And aim for the roses. Don't forget to aim for the roses.
That's right.
You forgot your new catchphrase.
I did.